Hi everyone and welcome to SWPL My Story, and today we are joined by Emma Black. How are you, Emma?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good. Happy to be back on again and join you, Martin.
No, I really appreciate you coming on. It's great to get your expert opinion. You know all the ins and outs of the game, so it's going to be great to hear your thoughts on it, where we are at this stage in the season. When we last had you on, it was the Christmas break, so things have obviously progressed. We're just heading into the split now, so be good to hear your thoughts on how the seasons went over the last few months and looking ahead to the running. So we'll start at the top. It's a lot tighter than it looked the last time we had you on. There's only the 4 points separating the teams, and I remember word for word you said never write City off, which I agreed with, by the way. I will say that. And they've now reeled Celtic back in, joint on 56 points. Rangers just 4 points ahead heading into the split. So how are you seeing this battle panning out?
I see it battling out in terms of obviously who's going to get that league title coming down to the final day of the season again. I think it will be similar to last season. I did say, as you said, Martin, that you can't write City off. There's no way. They've just got too much experience from right at the very top, from where the club's run, right down to obviously the manager and Leanne Ross. And they've brought in some good players as well. And I think the big statement signing was Fiona Brown that they managed to bring back in. And I just think that's gave the whole club a lift and they've managed to get results. And I think the winter break came at the perfect time for Glasgow City just to regroup, reset, get back on track and think, do you know what? What's our goal? Our goal is can we retain this league title? And they've managed to get the results back up and going again. And as you said, they've managed to claw that little gap that was creating between themselves and Celtic in second spot. They're sitting in level points with Celtic, and of course they're in touching distance with Rangers. So it's I think it's certainly going to be down to the wire once more. And we spoke about the split. Everybody speaks about the split, and I think it's proven to be a thrilling addition to our league, and it just makes it much more exciting for everyone.
Yeah, I think we were discussing that off camera. The impact Fiona Brown's had, it's night and day from where City were. They were getting results, and particularly against teams that they should have been blown away, really. And they were just kind of stumbling over the line. But her introduction or reintroduction to the City lineup is just giving them that X factor in the final third. And you can see from when she came in, her goal contributions, both goals and assists, is really driven the team on, and it'll raise the game of the players round about her, and the experience that she has as well will be rubbing off on them.
Absolutely, and she's been a phenomenal talent. And what's obviously pleasing for her as well, and the club, is she's been introduced back into the Scotland A squad. You know, we know Fiona Brown has been hampered with some serious injuries over her career, and what a better place to come in Glasgow City, where they can obviously taper her training. You know, they can manage her load throughout the week to ensure that she's fit and fresh for obviously match days at the weekend. So that's tremendous for Glasgow City. But as you said there, Martin, see the impact that she will have just walking into the changing room. She wouldn't even have to say a word. Just walking into that changing room would certainly lift the spirits of everyone round about, and certainly lift the game of other players round about, and just bring that competitive edge back into Glasgow City within the training dynamic. And I think that was certainly what was needed. For when we looked obviously back at the Christmas break there, for me, Glasgow City didn't really have that depth in squad compared to the likes of Celtic and Rangers, and have that quality and depth where it's almost like for like changing positions or making a substitute. Can they, obviously the substitute that comes on, can they maintain those standards at Glasgow City? And I think that's what she'll certainly bring within that changing room, and she's proven it so far. So the vital part that Leanne Ross will obviously look to maintain and keep is ensuring that she's fit and fresh.
I think Celtic obviously been a lot of change with Fran moving on kind of out the blue from us on the outside anyway, and there was always going to be an adjustment period. I think as well that they brought Tasha Flint back in the January transfer window. I might be wrong in saying this. I'm not sure the balance of having her and Amy Gallagher. They're very similar players. When I watch them, both of them seem to want to drop deep and try and get on the ball, which then leaves nobody on the shoulder or in those areas to score goals. When you were seeing Celtic in the first half of the season, and they were scoring consistently 6, 7, 8 goals every single game. Amy Gallagher went back as top scorer in the league, but I'm not sure for myself if that combination has been working, and also new manager coming in, different style of play. players adjusting to it. I think they have changed formation a few times as well, trying different things. But obviously they're still there in second, 4 points off of Rangers, but maybe it's slowed them down a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Martin. I think it was a little stumbling block that they came across in terms of when they brought the new manager in, because the girls before were drilled into Fran Alonso's philosophy. You know, they had that free to back, the wing backs, and the two obviously number sixes sitting, and the 2 10s and the one up top. And as you said, the way they were playing with Fran Alonso, they were able to stretch the game. They had those runners going in behind. Although bringing Natasha Flint back in, I think that's also a huge statement. They were also looking for that big player to try and then lift everyone else round about. And she knows the league. She knows the players. She knows what it means to play for a club like Celtic and to try and get their hands on silverware. But I think you're correct. I think you're spot on. I totally agree with you in terms of her and Amy Gallagher playing in the same team, in the same starting 11. I covered the game at the weekend when Celtic were up against Partick Thistle. And both Amy Gallagher and Natasha Flint were dropping deep. And I mean, they were almost dropping by the 2 number sixes when Natalie Ross was in the holding midfielder. They were dropping away into those areas, both of them looking to get the ball at feet. And if you're playing against that as a defender, you're quite happy because there's nobody running behind you. Everything's in front of you. So I think that's something that the new manager and the coaching staff will then have to address when it comes to the games against the likes of City, obviously Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Partick Thistle once more, is can they try and obviously get the 2 players working together to obviously get them to combine together? Because when you had the likes of Laversky playing in the number 9 role, she was able to stretch the game and she was the one that was making those willing runs in behind defenders. But when you have the likes of Amy Gallagher and Natasha Flint, they are players that want to come and get the ball to feet and to try and link up and then turn defenders. So I think that's something that obviously the coaching staff will be well aware of, because as you said, Martin, me and you are noticing those things as an outsider watching the game and observing it. So I think that's something that will have to obviously look to be addressed if they want to continue, obviously, as you said, trying to mount up the goals in games, because you know how important the goal difference is also. It's not just about points, because it is so tight at the top of the league. You then want to rack up those goals also.
Yeah, and then moving on to Rangers, the train that just keeps on rolling. They're just getting result after result, great performances. They had their, if you can call it a blip, but it probably just shows the standards that they had when they drew against Partick Thistle. And we were talking, I was at the game and Partick were outstanding that day and were really difficult to break down. I can only remember Eva Easton making one save, a great save at that. But they seem to be really well drilled. Joe Potter's got them playing the way that they want to play, seem really focused. Mia Macaulay is just getting better and better every week as well. Coming in as a young player is always going to be difficult, and then she might have been, it might look like she was going to be a fringe player, but she's absolutely put her name on that jersey and getting herself in the team sheet every week as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think for me, Rangers seem to just be bulldozing anybody that comes in their way. Of course, they did have that little blip, as you said, against Partick Thistle, but they still maintained their unbeaten record. You know, it wasn't like they dropped all 3 points. They still managed to get a point out of that game. And for me, they still controlled that game against Partick Thistle. It wasn't like they were struggling to obviously stay within the game, or they weren't creating as many chances, or they didn't have possession of the ball. It was just one of those games where they struggled to find the back of the net. But as you said, young Macaulay, you know, she started the season in the starting lineup. You know, there was the likes of Brogan Hay was injured still at that point, Jane Ross, Lizzie Arnott was injured. So she then snapped her opportunity and got herself into that starting 11. And then you've seen the bigger players, the more experienced players coming back. Brogan Hay, Lizzie Arnott, Jane Ross, and then she was out the starting 11 for a few games there. And then at the weekend there against Hibs, I thought she was just phenomenal. She was unplayable and she took her goals extremely well. And she just looks like a more experienced player compared to what her age is telling us, you know. So I think she'll be phenomenal and she'll be a vital player for the run-in, obviously, with these 10 games remaining for the split that's happened. So, and for me, Rangers have got the best squad, in my opinion, overall. We were speaking about the depth and squad for Glasgow City, but I think for me, Rangers have the top. You know, they've got like for like, as you have Lizzie Arnott sitting on the bench, but young Macaulay plays the starting 11 against Hibs and scores 2 goals. And you have Jodie McCleary on the other side and Brogan Hayes sitting on the bench. So to have that option and then to keep your players fresh as well, I think that's tremendous management as well from Jo Potter. I just think the way she's got the players drilled, they're taking one game at a time, they're not looking too far ahead. I think if you ask any of the Rangers players or even Jo Potter, do you want to go and win the league? She'll speak to you automatically about the next fixture rather than looking ahead to obviously, yeah, we're sitting at the top of the league. Yeah, of course we want to win the league. That's, you ask any player or within any team, of course they have aspirations to go and win the league, but they'll never come out and say, yeah, we're going to win the league. We want to win the league. They're just taking one fixture at a time, and I think that's vitally important as well, especially obviously with these fixtures that are coming up, obviously with the split that's happened.
So then when we're looking ahead now, or sorry, further down the table to the fascinating battle for fourth place, and every one of the teams, it's almost like on a weekly basis, it's switching around who's sitting in that fourth place. Hearts are in the driving seat and they've created a bit of a gap now. They're on 42 points, Hibs on 39, Partick on 38, but going into the split and they've got to play each other twice, and when and each of those teams is also taking points off the three above them. So I don't think anything's done and dusted yet between first to third and then fourth to sixth, but Hearts, as I say, in the driving seat at the moment, and they seem to be really getting stronger as the weeks go on.
Yeah, they certainly have. I thought for me at the beginning of the season, I think I mentioned when we were last on, Martin, that I thought Hearts were in a real good position to challenge the top three. Can they try and break into that top three? But they had that little blip where they weren't really as consistent as what they were last season. But I think they've certainly started to find a bit of form now. Found that consistency. They've managed to get the results, and then they'll try and break away from the likes of Hibs and Partick Thistle, just to try and create their own gap between themselves. Because, of course, obviously up in the East Coast, they want to be the best up in the East Coast, because Hibs have had that trophy for many, many years. Of course, Hearts obviously broke it last season, and they want to try and maintain that to be the best team up in Edinburgh.
Yeah, because when they finished fourth last season, and when you think back, it wasn't long ago that they came up from SWPL 2, and then they've obviously went to full-time status, and you're starting to see that transferring onto the performances on the pitch, and probably more importantly than the performances, the consistency of those performances, and keeping that, because that's the difference between the three at the top and everyone else is just maintaining that consistency. But Hearts have really managed to implement that, and Eva's got them well drilled again, like the other teams in that top half. And players are getting to play in a certain way that's allowing them to thrive and show their best capabilities. I'm thinking of like Katie Lockwood, who was previously at Hibs and kind of in and out, and then she's been an absolute standout for Hearts this season, playing a slightly deeper role, but then she's making these third man runs and seems to be scoring more or less every week.
Yeah, she is. I recall, obviously, we were watching Katie Lockwood for Hearts when I was filming one of the sports scenes episodes, and I was just so impressed with her, because that was the first time I'd actually seen her play, and I was just thinking, is that the same girl that played for Hibs last season? Because she just looked a totally different player. She was just playing with this full of confidence, and I think that makes a total difference to any player, as you know, Martin. See if you've got the confidence within yourself, you get the confidence from your coaching staff, and you're in a happier environment, you thrive on that. And then obviously your performances on the pitch are a telling tale for themselves. And I think she's been absolutely tremendous for Hearts this season. So she'll be a vital player for obviously Eva to ensure that she obviously remains fit, because she's been outstanding for me. And when obviously Hearts made big signings last season as well, at the beginning of the season, they brought in Kathleen McGovern, but she's been a little bit hampered with injury as well. So we'll try to get her back fit, just obviously to get her with obviously the run in with the games. Of course, Hearts have got the Scottish Cup to look forward to as well, the quarter-finals coming up as well. So that's something that they'll want to try and progress. And can they get to the semi-finals? Can they get into the final of the Scottish Cup?
And then you look at across the city at Hibs. It was probably a season that was going to. It seems to be a building season every season with Hibs. But after they got this start and out of the way, and it was just finding their feet, Grant coming back in, lots of new signings, but it just seems to be settled. For me, Jorian Bowcom has been tremendous, 20 goals in the league so far this season. But then you look at the younger players that they have that have been really thriving. Abby Ferguson has been outstanding. Leah Eddy got called into the Scotland A squad there as well. But they've got a really strong spine of the team when you look back into their defence too. But then blending that youth and experience.
Yeah, I think I've been impressed by Hibernian so far. I think the turning point for me, Martin, was when they had that heavy defeat at Ibrox. You know, that was an absolute doing. And then see from that result, they've just went on from stride to stride and they've just improved each game and each week. And as you said, I think they're much more a settled squad now. They don't have that turnover of players. They've got a good mixture of experience and youth players coming through. But I think at time when we look maybe a few months ago or maybe even last season, those youth players were too young. You know, they didn't quite have that experience for playing in SWPL 1, and sometimes I think the demands was too big for them, especially being at a club at Hibs, because Hibs is a huge club. Hibernian women's team is a huge club and there's obviously got a lot of status and they want to try and maintain that. So I think now they're in a much better position. You know, Grant's got them in, you know, the girls are in training full time. They've got there's consistent now throughout their performances. And I think now they'll use these split fixtures to then, can they keep on improving? Can they obviously go out and try and beat Hearts? Can they go out and take points off Partick Thistle? Can they even try and take points off the top three? And then again, that's another stepping stone towards next season to then try and can they then break into the fourth position? Can we try and break into the top three?
And then moving on to Partick Thistle, everyone's got a soft spot for Partick Thistle and everything that they're doing. Just love watching them. Everything that they're doing, both on and off the park as a club. But it's just a team full of hard workers, which they get plaudits for that all the time. But the quality they've got within that squad and how Brian's got them playing, and whenever we have any of the girls on here, I always mention when you see their social media, the togetherness, the team spirit that they have, and it's worked wonders for them this season. They're still there. They're pushing for that fourth place spot. And bearing in mind, they're a part-time team. They're the only one in that top half that are part-time, but they're going out there and they're performing every single week.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. I'm always praising Partick Thistle. I'll never have a bad word to say about Partick Thistle at all. But, you know, they've been tremendous. They've been phenomenal all season. I think just up until at the weekend there against Celtic, you know, there were 8 games unbeaten. I mean, that's a phenomenal record. And as you said, they're a part-time club. But what Brian Graham has done, which has been outstanding, is being able to bring in more experienced players and make his squad much more competitive. You know, because it is a part-time basis that they're training on, there's girls that are working shifts, so there might not be girls that are missing 2 training sessions a week or 1 training session a week, and then you're thinking, can you really then play that girl if she's missing training on a Sunday when you've got girls there that are training 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week, and they're on a consistent basis. So he's recognised that and realised, you know what, I need to strengthen my squad. I need to bring in more experienced players that can compete for positions into that starting 11. And you've seen it when he's brought in, obviously McAllister came on board. You got Carla Boyce, who obviously joined as well. And it's given him that option of almost having 2 players for every position that he can take his pick from, and it just makes training much more competitive as well. And certainly needs that, especially when you come up the likes of Celtic, Rangers, Hearts and Hibs. You need to have that competitive edge in training to then transfer it into games. Yeah,
I think obviously trying to manage that can be difficult, particularly when it's part-time, because people are giving up their own time. They've got full-time jobs, but when the team's successful as it is on the pitch, it must be a great environment to be in. They've got cup final to look forward to as well. So it seems like they're doing a really good job there.
Absolutely, no, they're doing absolutely tremendous, and what an achievement for them to get to the cup final, you know. And obviously when I was covering the game on Sunday, that's the first time I'd actually thought to myself, looked like a shadow of himself. That doesn't look like the Partick Thistle that I've been watching over the past number of seasons. And there was a couple of players that made individual errors, and I think that affected them for the rest of the game. But you know what? Brian Graham will obviously get them back into training. I'm sure we're back in on Monday. Get them back into having that togetherness, you know, that having that winning mentality. And then they'll just obviously look forward now to, obviously they've got the Scottish Cup game to look forward to at the weekend against Hearts, and that'll just be a clean slate for the girls, and they'll be bringing back players that have had to be niggly injuries. So You know, they've got a lot of good things to look forward to, and I'm sure, I've got no doubt about it, that they're still in touching distance with the 4th position. As I says, there's still obviously 10 games to go, obviously fixtures to go in the SWPL one. So, you know, certainly don't write them off that they're going to finish bottom of that top 6.
So then we're looking down now to the bottom 6. You've got Aberdeen currently sitting in 7th place. They've got a bit of a gap back to Motherwell. Aberdeen, the last month that they've had there, again, there's been a lot of change. New full-time manager coming in at the start of the season. Some experienced players leaving. Lauren Campbell, for example, retiring at the end of last season. There was going to be a bit of a shake-up. Probably not where, obviously, it isn't really wanted to be in that bottom half. But in the last few weeks, you're maybe starting to see a bit of a change. Twice they came from behind. They came from behind against Montrose to win 2-1 midweek, and then their win against Dundee United 3-1 down with, I think it was about 15 minutes to go. Scored a 93rd minute winner to win 4-3. Just showing that bit of grit and character and determination.
Yeah, they certainly have, and I think Aberdeen have certainly found a wee bit of form. You know, I think at the start of the season, as you said, they struggled. You know, they brought in the new management, they increased the training loads within the players, try to get the players in training more. There was a changeover of players. They were trying to bring in players from overseas, so it's having that adaptation as well. We're trying to bed those new players in. But I think for me, they're well safe. I have no doubt about that. I don't see them in terms of being dragged into a relegation battle at all. I know there's 6 points ahead of Motherwell, and I know they've still got obviously those 10 games to go, but I think for me they'll be on a good run of form in terms of they will be safe. I think for me what they'll have their own goal is, can they be the best of the rest now? Can they finish in that 7th spot just to obviously get themselves away from that relegation battle, and then be looking to build again for next season.
And then moving on to Motherwell, a team that's had a lot of turnover, particularly in January. There was a lot of players going out. There's quite a lot of players that have came in on loan, particularly younger players, which maybe in that situation, again from us from the outside, you wouldn't really expect. You maybe want to bring in experience, but Paul's went down the route of bringing youth in, and one of those players, Laura Berry's hit the ground running. She's a quality player. She was getting minutes towards the end of last season, then into this season with Rangers, but it's so competitive in that front line. But particularly for somebody so young, she's went out and she's done everything that she's been asked to do. She's out there and she's getting goals already.
Absolutely. You know, I was certainly surprised with obviously the players that departed Motherwell in the January window there. Obviously the likes of Kayla, you know, obviously leaving to go to Gap Cairn along with Gemma Hughes as well. And not just that, Carla Boyce, you know, that was a big move for me as well. You see, you know, seeing her depart from Motherwell. So there has been a lot of change here, and I know Paul Brownlee pretty well, and he's always wanting to play youth players. He's always wanting them to give them a chance. Can you bed them into SWPL football? Can you give them this opportunity? And he's certainly not one to shy away from bringing youth players in, and we've obviously seen that with young Berry. But as you said, the competition within Rangers, for her to try and break in to that starting 11, not even into the starting 11, but to actually get a strip within that squad is absolutely outstanding. So it's always going to be difficult for her, but you know what, having her experience, obviously going to Motherwell and getting minutes, you know, that's obviously going to be great for her confidence overall, and I'm just sure she'll continue to develop as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just look, it's almost like a blueprint from a year or two ago. I think it was last season when Tyree Burchell was there. She was on loan from Celtic, went and scored a lot of goals, and she's now making her way in the Celtic squad, within the squad, and she's starting some games coming off the bench. So Laura Berry will maybe be looking at that and thinking, I can do the same.
Absolutely, no, and she's got to grasp that opportunity. So as long as young Laura Berry continues to turn out for Motherwell and gets into that starting 11 and turns out good performances, Joe Potter will always have an eye on her. You know, her and her coaching staff will not be ignoring her whatsoever. They'll be continuing to keep an eye on her progress without obviously those final 10 games, and then just obviously then gives her those opportunities come the end of the season. Then where does she see her career going? You know, as long as she, as I says, keeps on turning out those good performances.
I think it was a big win for Motherwell. It's been very inconsistent, but the weekend getting that win over Spartans, who are below them, that was a real 6-pointer. But they went there and they got some performances from the players that they've brought in. But They've now got that 9 point gap to the relegation places. I know nothing's ever set in stone, but you'd think, or they would think as well, that they've got enough, but you can't take anything for granted. But with the quality that they've got, they should be getting a few more points on the board now that we go into the split.
Yeah, you would think so. There's obviously been a turnover there as well, but that's certainly not a place where they want to be. They won't want to be dragged into that relegation battle, and they're not far from it. It's just so tight now. The bottom four, there's only 3 points, obviously, between them, and as you said, and it'll be hard to predict in terms of who's going to be favourite getting into those fixtures. When obviously the likes, for example, when Spartans are up against Montrose or Spartans against United, it's going to be difficult then to try and call that before the game, thinking, what, Spartans are going into that as favourites or United are going into that as favourites. So it's going to be certainly exciting. It's just going to be as exciting at the bottom end of the table as it is at the top.
So then moving on to Spartans now, obviously it was a change of the guard almost, with Debbie McCulloch deciding to step into the chief exec role. Obviously a club that means a lot to her, and she felt that she couldn't give her time to both roles, which is completely understandable. But it's seen Jack Beasley then stepping in, so it was going to be a transitional period. But he seems to have got Spartans playing now. They've picked up a few wins in the last few weeks. So again, they'll be looking to kick on, going in to play the teams around them after the split.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what they want to do. For a team like Spartans, they won't want to be drawn, as I said, they want to be drawn into a relegation battle. Absolutely not. And huge congratulations to David McCulloch, obviously moving up the stairs and getting that role. But I think for me, there had to be a change at Spartans. They were just kind of going along, and they were kind of deteriorating a little bit for me. There had to be a change on the pitch to obviously get something from the players, and Jack certainly got that from the players. He's got a reaction from the players, and that's certainly what was needed, because they've got good enough players, Spartans. At times when I was looking at the results, I'm thinking, how are they not picking up points? How do they seem to be struggling? What is wrong within that squad? But I think they've hit a little bit of form just at the right time then, to pick up those points. But as I say, it's going to be a tough battle, the bottom four, but there's obviously a lot of points still at stake. As you said, they're playing teams round about them that are close to them in the league, so there's then more potential to then go and grab the 3 points to try and drag themselves away and try and obviously get in touching distance with Aberdeen.
And then on to Montrose, a team that they've got their way of playing, and that's how they play, regardless of who it's against. And it's a really brave way to do it. Maybe they're going into this season thinking it's not a free hit almost, but they're going to be going out to express themselves, and they've worked hard to get into the top flight. But the game at the weekend, I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. When I was seeing the results coming in, 0-0 at half time, I thought, well, that's kind of expected. Accies have had an upturn recently. But then next time I looked, full time 7-0. But what a huge win, regardless of the scoreline, which is kind of inexplicable. But to get that win and lift them off the bottom of the table, because that would have, if Accies had got another win there, that would have kind of cut Montrose adrift a little bit. But it lifts them into 10th place, and they'll be going into this part of the season full of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a massive win, and I was the same as you, Martin, when I was obviously covering the game at the weekend for Celtic Partick Thistle, and I was watching the results coming in. I'm thinking, oh, that's a tight game. 0-0 at half time, and then obviously when I seen the final result, I was thinking, well, that's a phenomenal result to score obviously that amount of goals as well. You don't expect that from a team that's playing at the bottom half of the table, to obviously score numerous goals in the one game. So that was huge for them. But the way they play football, as you say, it's brave, isn't it? It's expansive. It's they've got the players have got that confidence within them, to take the ball from the goalkeeper 2 yards when you're getting pressed down by the like sort of Rangers players, Celtic players, Glasgow City. They've still got the bravery and the confidence to say, do you know what, give me the ball. Let's try and play out from the back. Let's play those short passes and work our way up the pitch. And when they make a mistake, it doesn't hamper them. They're going to try and continue to do it and do it and do it. So certainly, obviously, it's certainly brave from them. And they signed some good players as well. I think we touched on it the last game. They signed some good players, but they're trying to deplete Dundee United, aren't they? They're trying to take the players from Dundee United to make them weaker so they can then get above them. But I think they've got some real quality players like Jade McLaren. I'm sure she was the one that scored the hat-trick
Yeah, she's
at
coming
the
on with
weekend.
us this week
Oh,
as well for a chat.
brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. And she was obviously ex-United, so, you know, and obviously the manager has signed a contract extension as well, I'm sure I read. So that's bringing continuity within the squad and within the team, and having that on a consistent basis. And they've done tremendous, you know, just to work themselves way up the leagues and then get themselves into SWPL 1. And I think for me, they will have enough to retain their status in SWPL 1. I've got confidence in them, they'll certainly do that.
On to Dundee United. I thought it was a strange one with Graham Hart getting let go when you looked at it on reflection. We had him on the week after, and in his 2.5 years in charge, won promotion to SWPL 1, kept them safe, finishing, I think it was 9th or 10th. And then they were sitting 9th in the league at the time. And they lost, as you said, they lost a lot of players to teams round about them. Mary Finlay, I think she was up there. I think she was second or third top scorer in the league last season, playing with Dundee United. Lost her to Hearts, lost a few players to Montrose, and still sitting in 9th. And then gets told it's not good enough. And it's sometimes you look at Spartans. I know it's different circumstances, but still with a new manager coming in, and they've got that bump which you tend to see. In Dundee United, it seems to have been more of the same and progressively sliding down that table. They're now sitting joint with Accies. They're above them on goal difference at the moment, but for Dundee United, it's going to be backs to the wall for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a tough task for Susan Robertson, who obviously got the role as manager there at Dundee United. So that's a tough task for her. You know, I know Susie. I played against Susie back in the day, and she's done tremendous with Boroughmuir. Over the past number of seasons, she managed to build the squad up, and she's obviously then taken that leap, you know, to progress her own managerial career. But what a tough gig that is, going to United. But I was shocked at the Dundee United letting Graham go as well. I think the turning point for me was, in particular, I was up filming Sports Scene at Tannadice when Dundee United were playing Accies. And I think that was his final game. I'm sure that was his final game there. And Accies had walked away with the 3 points. And the team at that time, when they just walked off the pitch, they were really just deflated. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of anger shown within the squad and the girls. And I think that was the turning point for Graham, which was sad to see, of course, but because he'd done tremendously well with United, as you said, you know, and managed to get them promoted into SWPL 1, retained their status last season, how tough it was for them last season, even tougher this season. And then now, where you see United, as you said, they're still sitting second bottom. Yeah, the same points as Accies, but only obviously a few goals. It's obviously keep them above Accies, their head above the water. But it's going to be extremely tough for Susie and her squad, obviously, to try and obviously get points and gain points from teams round about them, to try and obviously get themselves away from that playoff position, because that's certainly where any player, you don't want to be in a relegation playoff or automatically relegated. So it's going to be a tough 10 fixtures, shall we say, which will be for the run-in. And as I said, Martin, it's going to be exciting, the run-in at the bottom half of the table as well as the top end.
And then finally, on to Accies. They never do it the easy way, do they? They looked dead and buried the last time that we were on, massively cut adrift, and then they got their first, or maybe not their first, but it was the first one in a while against Kilmarnock in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
And then they went on a bit of a run where throughout January and into February, picking up wins against Dundee United and Motherwell, and got themselves right back in it. And if there was ever an occasion where an international break came at the wrong time for a team, was Accies, with that hugely disappointing and heavy defeat to Montrose, who at that time were in that bottom place. But there has been some signs of improvement. We've been getting goals. Chloe Muir's got herself back amongst the goals in recent weeks as well, which I think is massive. Last time we were on, we talked about how heavily they rely on Josie, and if she's maybe not getting the service or not performing, where are the goals going to come from? But they are now getting goals from elsewhere around the squad. Yeah,
they are, and I think you're right. The international break came at the wrong part of the season for them, because they were starting to build up momentum. They were starting, obviously, to play with that togetherness and starting to get goals and find the back of the net, starting to pick up points. And then it's just international break. And then as a player, you'll be looking around thinking, okay, what do we do now? Where's our next game? Because you're on that high. you want to maintain that high as long as possible, but it came at the wrong time for them. But I think for me, they will continue to struggle as hard as it is to say, because you don't want to say that about any team whatsoever. But I just think for me, when you look at even the United squad and the Montrose squad and the Sparta squad, I think they've got more within their squad to then pull themselves away for that relegation stage. And I just think for me, Accies will find it difficult because it's been a long season for them so far. It was a long haul for them last season as well, you know, in that playoff position as well, and where they found themselves. And I think for this season, in these final 10 games, I think it'll be no different for them. Unfortunately, I think they will struggle to get themselves lifted away from that, obviously, bottom spot in the league table.
Oh, that's great, Emma. It's always great to hear your opinion, and we can watch these back come the end of the season and see how far off it we were. But no, thanks so much for coming on as always.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And thanks everyone for joining us on SWPL My Story.